An AEW talent is officially gone from the company after having a conversation with Head of Talent Relations Christopher Daniels. We'll let you know what the reasons cited were for his contract not being renewed. Plus, Toni Storm made her AEW debut last night on Dynamite. Paul Wight is back in action inside of an AEW ring. CM Punk is going after the AEW World Championship. Plus, an AEW talent is currently on the shelf with injury that is taking longer to heal than expected. We also have news on what's planned for Dynamite next week and Rampage on Friday. All this and more in today's AEW news. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, it always happens the day after AEW Dynamite. There is plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling. So let's start off talking about a departure from the company. Now, this is a departure that's widely known. He was going to be leaving in the sense that his contract wasn't going to be picked up. His contract was expiring and AEW wasn't going to offer him a new deal, that being Marco Stunt. Now, that's not really the big news about it, I would say. Everyone knows that Marco Stunt wasn't going to get a new contract, so he was going to be leaving the company upon expiration of his deal. But I think the thing that's really got people talking about this is the reason cited to Marco as to why AEW isn't picking up his deal. So Marco Stunt is reportedly on his way out of AEW. No new news there. But as we've noted, Stunt's AEW future has been up in the air after it was revealed that his contract expires in May, and of course he hasn't been on television in 6 months now. The speculation continued with Stunt announcing back in January that he is taking independent bookings. But in a new update, this comes from Fightful Select, Sean Ross Sapp, they've noted that Stunt received a phone call from Christopher Daniels last week. Of course, Daniels is the head of talent relations in AEW, so he was representing AEW talent relations in the same way that John Laurinaitis calls people in WWE when they're going to be released or their contract's expiring or whatever. It doesn't tend to come from Vince McMahon. So people that are saying, oh, why didn't it come from Tony Khan? It's because that's what the job of talent relations does. Whether it was John Laurinaitis, whether it was Jim Ross, whether it was whoever, that's the job. And Marco Stunt was informed by Christopher Daniels that the company would not be renewing his contract. It was claimed that Daniels cited budget cuts and a large roster as the reason Stunt's contract is not being renewed. We will circle back to that certainly. Now, Daniels also reportedly mentioned that creative plans had changed for the Jurassic Express stable. Stunt had been appearing with AEW World Tag Team Champions Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus in a 3-man stable, but he was not used for the big title win earlier this year, and that was seen as a bad sign for his future. Stunt was also not included in recent Jurassic Express merchandise designs. It was also revealed in this new report that Stunt suffered a concussion in October. He was not booked or given a reason why, but he did make an effort to reach out to the company to get booked in hopes of proving himself for a contract renewal. It was also said that the split between the two sides was amicable and Stunt's conversation with Daniels went well. Now, it's interesting that Daniels called Stunt about the release just 1 week after Joey Janela mentioned that AEW had, quote, ghosted Stunt. Janela recently confirmed that he was leaving AEW and his contract expires also on May 1st. And in that same interview, he commented on Stunt's situation and mentioned Daniels. I mentioned this before, that I really did not like these reports and news stories about people getting towards the end of their contracts and not hearing anything, just getting no response from AEW. I felt that was really bad, and I didn't necessarily blame Tony Khan completely on that because I didn't think that was fair. I think that obviously anything in AEW, the buck does stop with Tony Khan, and he will ultimately shelve and shoulder that responsibility as he should. But I didn't think that was particularly his fault. If you watch the videos that I've done on this previously, I said, where is Christopher Daniels? Christopher Daniels is the head of talent relations. That's your job. You handle talent. You inform talent of several issues. You discuss issues with talent. You try and resolve issues with talent. That's talent relations. That's the purpose. That's what it is. As I mentioned, John Laurinaitis does it for WWE right now. Jim Ross used to do it. J.J. Dillon used to do it. Plenty of people have done it. Mark Carrano used to do it for WWE for several years as well. That's the job. And it's not Vince McMahon that calls people. It's not Nick Khan that calls people and say, we're not picking up your contract, or you're fired, or we're releasing you, we're suspending you, whatever it may be. That isn't how it works. Except with top talent, that's a little bit different. But for most talent, it's head of talent relations. So that's why when we were hearing these reports from, say, Joey Janela or Marco Stunt or Chavo Guerrero. Why haven't we heard from Tony Khan? I was thinking, where is Christopher Daniels? Where is talent relations involved in this? So once I heard that talent relations had spoken to Marco Stunt, I went, well, that's at least better. Nobody should be left in the dark. Everyone should be given an answer when it comes to their future if they've got questions. So that's a positive. I think the biggest talking point, though, has to be the reason cited, right? The reason cited as an expanding roster, which is totally true. Their roster is bigger than ever, and they're constantly signing people, and Marco Stunt, Joey Janela, and other people get lost in that shuffle. So that's a fair reason as to why their contract isn't being picked up. And there is a difference, it must be said, when it comes to their contract not being picked up and then being released. I've seen some people say that, oh yeah, but it's essentially the same thing, and it's not, because AEW is fulfilling the entirety of their contract. When WWE releases someone, they might have years left on their contract. That what they're saying to that person is, we are terminating your contract in 90 days. That's what they're saying. So whether it's Braun Strowman, who again had multiple years left on a multi-million-dollar deal, or people where, like, say, Taya Valkyrie signed a multi-year deal, moved from one country to another, or moved from one place to another, and then bought a house, and then, oh, by the way, you're fired. That's a little bit different to saying, oh, this contract that you've been on for 3 years, once it expires, we're not picking it up. Slightly different, in my opinion. Slightly different. But so when they say the expanding roster, I go, okay, that's fair. But when they say budget cuts, look, I'm no hypocrite here, because I said the same thing about WWE. When they go budget cuts, you go, well, what does that mean? It means nothing. It's just talent relations speak, apparently. And I do think the same people that had, a certain kind of energy for WWE when they used budget cuts as an all-encompassing reason to let people go or not pick up people's contracts, it's the set. You got to give that energy to AEW then, because budget cuts isn't necessarily true. AEW is making more money than they ever have. I don't know. I don't have a good answer to it. Honestly, I don't. I mean, you could argue that an expanding roster and budget cuts are kind of oxymoronic. It does kind of sound like that. I would assume what he necessarily means by that is, look, the roster is getting bigger, but we can't let it get out of control. We do have to make some cuts where necessary. In the same vein as, if we're going to sign all these people, ultimately we can't keep everyone. And that's just part of the problem. It's just a fascinating time, because for 3 years, there has been this sort of feeling that AEW is the greatest company ever and the best run company ever, and everyone that works there likes it. There is always going to be disgruntled people. People are always going to leave any company, and people are going to have bad experiences, and people are going to be let go. People are going to be fired. People are going to be, their contracts are going to expire, whatever. That happens. And I find it funny also that some people are using it as a diss for AEW, but in the same vein, I think people that have tried to portray AEW as this company that gets everything right and is perfect, they've been wildly inaccurate. AEW is not a perfect company. No company is. There have been plenty of things that AEW have done that I've disagreed with, and the same when it comes to WWE. But I will say, when it comes to the whole budget cuts thing, you've got to bring the same energy. That's what I'll say. Now, let's talk about Dynamite last night. Toni Storm is All Elite. I mentioned this yesterday. Whenever you hear that report of people in the company really want to see Toni Storm get signed, and they think Toni Storm is going to be signed, read that as Toni Storm has been signed. That's what that means. Now, Toni Storm is All Elite. Last night's AEW Dynamite in Columbia, South Carolina saw Storm make her debut for the company as the mystery talent that AEW president Tony Khan had been teasing. Storm defeated the Bunny in the first qualifying match for the Owen Hart Foundation's Women's Tournament. Afterwards, he tweeted, quote, "Welcome to the team. Toni Storm is hashtag All Elite AEW Dynamite." Of course, Storm requested her WWE release in December, and it was granted. Why Mustafa Ali can't get the similar treatment, I don't know. She just became a free agent this week as her 90-day non-compete clause expired on Tuesday. I thought she looked great. I think that she's obviously got into great shape, and Toni Storm's such a win, obviously. It's a layup, and I really am surprised it didn't work out in WWE. I know you could say, well, she was working with Charlotte Flair, but go watch her last few weeks on television. That feud and that program was awful. Charlotte Flair was going to win that, and I'm not saying Toni Storm should have been the SmackDown Women's Champion, but she was called up to the SmackDown roster and did nothing for months. It was just frankly bizarre, some of the booking. And as I spoke about yesterday too, that WWE schedule is not for everyone. Some people just realize, you know what, I can't do it, and I don't want to do it. I don't want to do 5 nights a week on the road. I don't care for the exposure that much. I just like wrestling. I like making good money, which she's definitely doing right now. Even if she didn't wrestle, just the fact that she did an OnlyFans and made 10 grand in a day is ridiculous, let alone what she'll make in a month. So I think that it's a great pickup. I think they need that kind of talent, certainly, in the AEW Women's Division. As I mentioned before, I do think we've seen significant improvements in the Women's Division for AEW, but there is still a long way to go. I think they're wildly behind WWE when it comes to their Women's Division and Impact Wrestling, frankly, for that matter, but I do think they are making improvements. I kind of had a bit bad for Bunny, honestly, because she's been there essentially since the start of AEW, and she's Canadian, and not being in the Owen Hart Cup tournament sucks, honestly. And she's a great wrestler. Allie's a great wrestler. I'm a big fan of her work, and hopefully she can get in the tournament some other way and not be pushed aside for the shiny new toy. But as is the issue at the moment when it comes to AEW, is a lot of these people come in and debut. The big question is, what will Toni Storm be doing in 3 or 4 weeks? That's the big question, and that's what we'll have to wait and find out. But I thought the match was good last night, got a decent reception, and I think she'll be a player in AEW. I do. Speaking of AEW Dynamite last night, CM Punk opened the show. He had a match against Max Caster, which was okay. It was okay. I felt that at certain points maybe Max needed to slow down a little bit. There was a bit of a botch with the pile driver kind of finish, and that was because, again, I think Max's timing was off. I saw a graphic on social media last night, and it was basically all of the match graphics of CM Punk's matches in AEW so far. And he's had maybe like 15, 20, something like that in AEW so far. And I looked at all of them and went, they've been okay. Now, there have been some bigger ones than others, but the response that some of the people were saying on social media, and this is how crazy it is at the moment, going, look at that, he's all been facing lower card or mid card people or these young and up and comers. People don't want to see him do that. And I thought, but what a ridiculous thing to say. This is week-to-week pro wrestling television, right? What, you want him to face? Okay, Adam Cole, Hangman Page, Darby Allin, I don't know, Chris Jericho, Bryan Danielson, Moxley, all these people. You want him to face them, in a row? He's been with the company less than a year, and you want to face every big person in the company? It's ludicrous. He's obviously signed to a multi-year contract. Those feuds, whether they're against Bryan Danielson, whether they're against Adam Cole, whether they're against whoever, they will come. Of course they will go. Kenny Omega. All of those matches will come in the future. I have no doubt that AEW will do them because CM Punk wants to do them. But this is week-to-week television. And especially the storyline they're trying to tell at the moment, which is his intention to go after the AEW World Championship, you have to win matches. They have a ranking system, so he has to wrestle regularly on television and pick up wins. Why would you bother? If you face Adam Cole on television next week and he beat him just to get a victory on the board, people would go crazy. They would go crazy. So I thought the match was okay. Again, I actually really enjoyed his match with Dax Howard last week. I thought that was fantastic. It's TV. I think some people kind of forget, like television, you're not supposed to give your biggest matches away on television all the time, and you're meant to build to things. You're meant to build to pay-per-views. You're meant to save your biggest matches for pay-per-views, and then guess what? Sell tickets, sell pay-per-view buys. That's how it works. So I understand that television is the driving force when it comes to revenue for pro wrestling nowadays, but come on, let's be rational here. So I think eventually Punk's going to wrestle for the title. It's just a case of when. I mean, I see some people saying double or nothing. I personally I honestly would rather that he wrestled for the title in Chicago, All Out, which I'm assuming will be the United Center. I don't know if that's been announced yet, but I think it will be the United Center. I mean, what a story. Full circle. 1 year ago, he came back, had his first match back inside of a pro wrestling ring for however many years, was in Chicago All Out against Darby Allin. A year later, he wins the title. That's a great story. And I think if he faces Hangman at Double or Nothing, that means he's not going to win the bout. I think if he faces him at All Out, it probably is going to win the bout. So I would hope that this is a beginning of a longer story, and the story's going to play out until All Out in Chicago, and maybe he has, I don't know, maybe he has a number one contenders match at Double or Nothing, or maybe he's part of the tournament, I don't know. But I don't think, it depends, it really does depend, but I think the money is having him win the bout in Chicago. That atmosphere, that's the special thing, I think. Paul Wight was back in action last night. We spoke about how Paul Wight had spoken that he wanted to be in action because, of course, last night's TV tapings were in his hometown of Columbia, South Carolina, and indeed he was back in the ring. It was taped at the Colonial Life Arena in Columbia, South Carolina. AEW Dark Elevation tapings were taped prior to Dynamite on TBS. The taping saw hometown star Paul Wight return to the ring in the main event against Austin Green. Now, this was just Wight's fourth match for AEW after signing with the company in 2021. In February, the former Big Show made his AEW in-ring debut with a victory over QT Marshall at All Out last September. He then won 2 3-on-1 handicap matches on Elevation that fall. He defeated CPA, RSP, and VSK in September, and then he defeated Cole Carter, Carly Bravo, and Arjun Singh in October. He has not wrestled since then, but asked AEW President Tony Khan if he could work last night's show because it was in his hometown. He wasn't dressed as Captain Insano either. We'll wait and see what the match looks like, honestly. As I've mentioned, I watched his last match, that 3-on-1 handicap match in October, and it was painful. Honestly, it was painful to watch because just years of being a giant, your body's not meant to take it. And you can see right there in the picture, he's got knee braces on and his knees kind of pointing in. So I don't know. But I'm sure he got a good pop, and I'm sure people will watch it on Monday. One name who is out of action at the moment, but we did see on Dynamite last night, is Anthony Bowens. He's currently on the shelf with an injury. Now, AEW President, CEO, General Manager, and Head of Creative Tony Khan appeared on Busted Open Radio yesterday and revealed that Bowens is currently dealing with a knee injury, but was supposed to be back by now. Khan said they don't think the injury will keep Bowens out for the long term, but he was supposed to be back to in-ring action by now. Khan said Bowens' absence has, quote, jammed him up for the past few weeks when it comes to planning creative. Bowens has not wrestled since the March 9 edition of AEW Dynamite, where the Acclaim came up short against AEW World Tag Team Champions Jurassic Express. Khan said doctors originally thought Bowens would be out of action for just 2 weeks, but now he's been out of action for nearly 1 month. He said, quote, I've been looking forward to bringing him back. He's recovering from what is hopefully a short-term knee injury. Now, he underwent surgery for a knee injury back in February/March 2021 and spent several weeks on the shelf. He noted then that he'd been resting while hurt for 4 months, but finally took time off for the surgery. There is no word on if the same knee is injured now as was last year, so we'll have to wait and see when it comes to that. But hopefully he recovers soon. I mean, he still looks in great shape. He looked in great shape on Dynamite last night in that opening match when he was ringside for Max Caster versus CM Punk. So hopefully he recovers soon because he's got a great look and I think a great future in AEW. A few matches announced for next week's AEW Dynamite on TBS. A tables match will see Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy go up against the Butcher and the Blade. Of course, the tables match was announced during last night's AEW Dynamite. The Hardys, along with Sting and Darby Allin, have been feuding with the Andrade family office ever since Matt was booted from the group earlier this month to set up Jeff's debut. Last night's Dynamite actually surprisingly saw Andrade Al Elo defeat Darby Allin. I was quite surprised to see that, but I think it was probably a good thing. Sometimes those matches are a bit predictable. It must be said, the match was great. I thought, what a main event. What a TV main event that was. A lot of fun. Really a lot of fun. Last night's Dynamite was okay. It had some really good matches. I think arguably match of the night, it was probably Danielson versus Wheeler Yuta. I mean, what a match. I mean, just beat the hell out of each other, but absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed it. So that's been announced for next week. AEW has also announced that next week's Dynamite will feature the first qualifying matches for the Owen Hart Foundation's men's tournament and more qualifiers for the Owen Hart Foundation women's tournament. No participants have been announced as of this recording right now. So we'll have to wait and see who is going to be competing next week to qualify for the Owen Hart Foundation Cup tournament. Friday, of course, is Rampage on TNT. We also have some matches announced for that too. Several matches and segments have been announced for Friday's AEW Rampage on TNT. Rampage will feature a second qualifying match for the Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament as Jamie Hayter takes on Sky Blue. One would assume that Jamie Hayter is going to win that match and join Toni Storm in the tournament. Other things announced for the show included hearing from Chris Statlander. She's got that darker look now. We'll also hear from AEW TNT champion Scorpio Sky, Dan Lambert, and Paige Van Zant. The Young Bucks are going to be facing Top Flight in what promises to be a great match. I'm really excited to see that one. Powerhouse Hobbs versus Keith Lee is announced, and the House of Black are going to be facing Fuego del Sol, Evil Uno, and Stu Grayson. That was set up last week during Rampage as well. So a decent show. The ratings don't get killed. I mean, honestly, they're going to get killed because the Hall of Fame's going on, plus Supercard of Honor, plus everything is going on, so they'll get killed. I think they're trying to sort of line up a semi-decent show, but the ratings aren't going to be pretty, in my opinion. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on today's AEW news stories in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe to Wrestling News 365, and I'll speak for you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.